Across distant worlds, ancient cults prayed for salvation, whispering chants that could tear through reality itself. They sought the one who would answer their desperate cries, the Lord of Ashes, the immortal sovereign of fire and ruin. But the one who answered wasn't divine. He was just an overworked intern at a cafe who hadn't even finished his shift. The only circles he knew were coffee stains, not magic ones. When the lights of his apartment failed that night and strange chanting echoed from nowhere, he thought it was just his neighbors pulling a prank. He didn't realize those voices belonged to another world, one that would mistake him for their god and bow before a man who still couldn't pay his electricity bill. Now, every whisper of his name ignites wars. Every mistake he makes becomes a divine decree, and somewhere, a terrified girl clings to his words as sacred truth, unaware that her so-called god still wonders if this is all a dream. But what happens when a mortal is worshipped as a god? How long before the lie becomes reality or the world burns to prove it true? And if you were summoned as a god by mistake, would you play along or try to escape? In the starting of the story, the protagonist of the story, Shen Yi, had just finished college and was working an internship at a cafe. The people there constantly asked him to do every chore they could think of. They even told him to clean the place. He felt stressed about not studying harder in the past, knowing he wouldn't have to do such tasks if he had. Outside his flat, a girl approached him, trying to tempt him into romance for $300. Hearing the price, he was momentarily happy but quickly refused the offer. Later, he was waiting for a package. When it arrived, he was surprised to see it was a delivery from McDonald's, even though he had ordered KFC. In this world, most people had a clear, distinct look. They either seemed like the type to gain weight easily or the type to attract girls. However, Shen Yi was the one who consistently confused people. He was constantly called by numerous wrong names because people always mistook him for someone else. His apartment door lock suddenly jammed and he had to force it open. He finally stepped inside, but he was immediately stunned when the lights went out and he started hearing strange sounds. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but he soon realized it wasn't. He started to worry that he might be caught by ghosts. As he tried to interact with the strange entities, the last words he heard before everything changed were about a summons. Meanwhile, in another world, a group of people was performing a ritual, sacrificing a little girl to summon their mighty Lord of Ashes. The king praised the Lord of Ashes a great deal, urging him to come and accept the sacrifice of blood and flesh. The girl stood encircled by a magic circle, which made the king look astonished. He wondered if their summoning had finally worked after hundreds of years. The others began happily chanting the word befall continuously. The girl was becoming frightened, while the king ordered everyone to leave the room. He told them it was a live commodity and they had no right to watch the process. A statue began flashing a bright, very hot light toward the girl, making her feel dizzy. Just as she closed her eyes, Shen Yi was suddenly summoned there. He thought that he had simply run into a ghost. He was stunned, however, to see a girl with a large chest instead. He decided to look closer. First, he untied the rope that bound her, and then he began waking her up, asking if she was okay. While he was talking, the king and his followers suddenly appeared and began bowing down in front of him, calling him the Lord of Ashes. Shen Yi explained that there must be a mistake, as people always confuse him for someone else. The king spoke the long, great name of the Lord of Ashes and asked if he had made a terrible error. Shen Yi realized this was something serious, so he asked her what sort of being she thought he was. She told him he was a creation beyond imagination. Hearing this, he leaned in, asking if she was truly talking about him. That sudden closeness frightened her, and she fainted immediately. He decided to give her a cup of coffee, thinking that after reading so many comics and stories, he wouldn't be surprised if he had been transported to some other world. Suddenly, he noticed she was glancing at him and realized she was pretending to be passed out. He then figured she must be confusing him with some demon god, so he told her not to be afraid of him and asked her name. She was stunned that a god was speaking to someone so lowly. She introduced herself as Aina. He offered her a coffee to be friendly, but in her eyes it looked like a cup full of lava. She gradually accepted it and told him she was offering her life to him. He got anxious, wondering what he was supposed to do with her life. Shen Yi asked her to explain how she had summoned him. She explained how the king and his followers used her as a sacrifice to call for their god. He realized it was an evil church that used living sacrifices to summon a demon god, and he had simply been summoned by mistake. At that moment, the time limit for his summoning ended and he began to vanish. Realizing this, he quickly ordered her to live on properly and carefully. Aina remembered the words of others that she would be fed until she was ready for sacrifice. She cried tears of happiness and decided to live her life properly to maintain his grand wish and his mission. She looked at the coffee and wondered if it was a special reward given to Aina, but she couldn't figure out why. After all, the Lord of Ashes sent down favors very rarely. She began to interpret this, wondering if he preferred smaller girls. Soon, she became puzzled, realizing that she was a mere mortal and could not possibly understand his intentions. She picked up the cup, drank a little of the coffee, and then left the room. When she got outside, she was glowing with a dim light. Water that fell on her instantly evaporated. Seeing this, she thought that nothing in this cruel world could ever match the power of the Lord of Ashes. This was her first time being out in the city all by herself, so she considered it the greatest gift. She felt confused about the location and decided the best plan was to head back to the church as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Shen Yi was summoned to a different place and fell hard onto the ground, which caused him to pass out. When he woke up the next day, he realized he was inside a coffee shop. He thought it felt as though he was still stuck in that cult world and had not returned to his real life. He saw a photo of a person who looked very unusual. Just then, a girl asked him to make a latte. At first he was confused, but he quickly assumed his physique must be the problem again. He realized there was no time to wait, so he decided to simply start working and wait for the shop's boss to arrive. Many girls came into the shop and asked for coffee. Later that night, around 8 o'clock, a bodybuilder came in and made a comment about Shen Yi's appearance. He worked hard until midnight, 12 o'clock, and earned a good amount of money. He thought the business wasn't bad at all. Soon, however, he started worrying that all his work would be pointless if the boss never showed up. Still, he decided to use the bed and food the shop had for the night as his reward. On the other side of the world, a few people reached a house and called out for Dr. Norn. Norn came out and asked if the little girl was the one who would undergo the remodeling operation. They confirmed that she was, and the scene showed that the girl was none other than Aina. Norn asked them to bring the girl into the underground room where the operation would take place. Aina was stunned to hear the name. Norn asked everyone to leave her and the burning blood behind. The coffee had apparently converted into burning blood for the others. Norn asked Aina to lie down on the operating table. He tore her clothing a little and was about to give her an injection of anesthesia and then wait for it to take effect. After that, when he saw the burning blood, he was dazzled, concluding that the sacrifice had been a success this time. He then wondered if the Lord of Ashes liked silver hair and scarlet eyes. He soon concluded that maybe the Lord simply liked small girls. Based on this, he decided to make Aina a child of God. She asked what that meant. He shared that it was a form of address within the order, and each order had its own distinct way to acquire a child of God. He explained that by injecting the burning blood, a human body would mutate to achieve superhuman power. Norn told her that she was brought there because the financiers wanted to see the burning blood. Norn also told her that everyone wished to be a child of God, but she would be the first one. After that, without wasting any time, he injected the burning blood into her body. She had various reactions in her body to the injection and passed out within seconds. Seeing this, Norn initially thought it was a failure and that she wasn't the chosen one. Suddenly, she spoke again, saying that she must live on. In the coffee shop, Shen Yi was wondering about her, thinking about whether he would ever meet her again. However, he sincerely hoped he would not see that rope-tying method ever again. Suddenly, he began hearing that strange voice and some chanting again. He realized that it was a new summoning chant. He felt happy, thinking about being summoned and perhaps finding another older sister figure, Oni-chan. Shen Yi was ready to be summoned, but the chant suddenly paused for a long time. His body shivered fiercely and he felt a strange pressure on his heart. He was scared and grabbed his chest, but the sensation soon ended. Afterward, he wondered what had just happened. He then realized that the heat he had felt near his heart seemed to have moved to his hand. He wondered if he could now create flames. The idea excited him and he wanted to test it. He finally gave it a try, and to his surprise, he really could cast a huge fire. He quickly stopped himself, realizing he would burn down the house, so he just made a small, sizzling flame. He experimented with different amounts of fire and was very happy, convinced this was the powerful immortal ability of a god. He even tried to shape the fire and he succeeded. The flame, shaped like a girl, made him feel warm inside. He understood that he could manipulate the form of the fire. He tried creating different letters with the flame. Then he looked at a book and thought about burning it. But when he directed the fire at the book remained completely unharmed. He even added more heat, but the book didn't burn at all. He threw the book away and felt sad, wondering what kind of fire couldn't even burn a book. He decided it was a waste of his time. On the other side, Dr. Norn was about to leave Aina to face the financiers. To his shock, Aina walked up to him and declared that she had succeeded. Norn was delighted to see her alive, confirming her success. Aina was now sure that she was truly born to serve the great Lord of Ashes. Norn told his subordinates to go and notify the priest about preparing for the next ritual. A month passed and Shen Yi was still managing the coffee shop. He had become the temporary manager of the place. However, he now strongly wished to go back home to see his favorite YouTube creator, Alice. Angry, he shouted into the air, demanding to be returned to his own life. Suddenly, a faint chanting began, but it ended in seconds. He was frustrated, but he realized he could do nothing about it, so he went to bed. In reality, he had heard various chants numerous times but had never been summoned anywhere. He worried about the possibility of being summoned to a cultist's place where they might recognize him as an imposter. During that month, he had also learned about Baddie Imperial College, a place where different mysterious girls could be found. He started hearing chants again, but this time he recognized the sound as belonging to the church girls' world. This time, however, he was finally summoned from the coffee shop to somewhere else. Actually, 10 minutes earlier in the church, the priest was preparing for the summoning of the Lord of Ashes. He was performing this ritual to excite the rich people and maintain the order's finances. Aina's story had energized the rich patrons, but the summoning itself caused effects like a major disaster. Aina was thinking about the importance of the event, as this time the ritual involved a powerful relic. The Anti-Magic Bureau had forbidden commoners from possessing it, so only the rich could have it. The priest kept chanting and hoping for the god to appear. Suddenly, the candles went out and the sound of the rain stopped. The priest became nervous because he couldn't hear the rain anymore. He worried about whether Aina had truly told the truth, as the Lord of Ashes had only appeared twice in the last 1,000 years. However, he refused to believe the god could appear twice in a single month. At that moment, a magic circle started forming in front of him, making him shiver. The Lord of Ashes began to descend, and seeing this made the rich patrons ecstatic. The statue of the Lord of Ashes rose up in front of them. Aina was mesmerized to see the Lord of Ashes appear again. Meanwhile, the priest was urgently asking the Lord to calm his anger. But since this was Shen Yi, he wasn't angry at all. He even asked what was happening and if he would vanish again after a short time. Shen Yi also saw Aina, and he felt energized when he saw her physical beauty. Shen Yi mumbled something about the oracle he had issued last time. The priest became anxious because he hadn't heard the order clearly and worried that he would be punished and killed during the god's first appearance in centuries. So, he decided to offer the sacrifices to change the subject. He quickly explained the offerings they were presenting. Shen Yi just stood there, wondering about the commotion the people were making. Shen Yi saw that the main man was the priest, so he decided to keep his distance. This was because he thought he would be finished if the priest discovered that he was a fake lord and not the real one. However, the reality was that they could not see his real body and face. While Shen Yi thought the priest was crying because he was a zealot, the priest was actually crying because of Shen Yi's silent treatment. The priest believed they were all done for because the Lord was angry. Shen Yi realized what was going on, so he accepted the offering. A mask flew toward him, making him startle. When he touched the mask, everyone rejoiced because the Lord had accepted the sacrifice. The priest was very happy, thinking he had been spared from death. But the problem was that the Lord of Ashes did not leave. The priest thought the Lord was confused about being summoned so often, continuously in 1 week. He became stressed, worrying that the Lord's presence would destabilize the world. He was about to say something, but Aina spoke up, saying they were all liars and had violated his oracle arbitrarily. The priest shouted, telling her to be quiet. Aina tried to say something else, but she felt a sharp pain in her heart. Just then, they heard their lord shouting angrily about their punishment. Shen Yi was angry because Aina was still receiving inhumane treatment. He furiously created a dragon of flames and declared that Aina had to live all the way and follow the destiny he had written for her, so no one could offend her. The priest cried, saying that the dragon was just an illusion, and promised that he would follow the Lord's oracle immediately. He also promised not to summon him again unless they had something truly worthwhile. Aina realized that the Lord of Ashes Ashes wasn't evil at all. She was deeply impressed, thinking that perhaps he was dangerous to the world and might cause destruction, but only because the world couldn't bear his true existence. The priest calmed down because he could now hear the sound of the rain again. However, the others started acting strangely. Norn tensely asked what was happening and why everyone was going wild. The priest told him that they needed to leave the church. Norn shouted, demanding an explanation, but the priest's powerful aura made him realize he wasn't asking the right person, as the priest had a disaster-level rating. He then told the doctor and everyone else that Aina had shared that she was the only one who could truly understand the Lord of Ashes. He explained that Aina was an object of divine favor, so everyone had to treat her with respect. The priest even told the doctor to let his apostles enter the brand new world now, but Aina shouted that she didn't need his instructions anymore. 1 week later, an unknown man was sitting at Shen Yi's coffee shop and was looking at him suspiciously because he could sense the aura of the Lord of Ashes. Shen Yi took the man's order and was preparing it. While he worked, the man asked if Shen Yi had come to stop him, but Shen Yi was anxious because no customers had come lately, and he worried about what would happen if the cultists discovered his location. The man was surprised because he could no longer sense any aura from Shen Yi and wondered if the sensation was coming from something else. The man drank the coffee quickly and concluded that it wasn't poison. Shen Yi saw the paper cranes and asked about them. The man told him that his daughter had made them to wish for her desires. Shen Yi laughed, noting that the girl really had many wishes. The man shared that they wanted to present their wishes, but they never got the chance. So, he buried the cranes in the earth to avoid being disturbed by the memories, but he soon dug them back out. Shen Yi felt emotional and apologized, saying that it wasn't good to live in the past, as it would only hurt them and do nothing else. But the man replied that only his own death could end his thoughts. Deep down, the man still thought of Shen Yi as a sorcerer or an agent from the Anti-Magic Bureau. Surprisingly, Shen Yi agreed with the man's thought. The man then introduced himself as Byron Anhalt, and Shen Yi introduced himself in return. Byron then left the shop. Outside, Byron wondered if Shen Yi was from the Shangshuan country. Suddenly, Shen Yi came up behind him and stopped him. Byron was perplexed, but to his relief, Shen Yi had only come to ask for the money for the coffee. Byron was calm but also serious about the Lord of Ashes, saying he wouldn't hesitate to offend the exterior god. In reality, he wanted the Lord of Ashes to bring his beloved daughter back to life. This is a great place to pause the story, ending with a tense introduction to a new character. Next, Shen Yi started reading various books about himself, specifically about the Lord of Ashes. He read many different things and saw the plots as just something out of a cartoon. He read other books as well and found many different titles associated with him. He even realized that the chants he had heard used these different titles. Shen Yi decided to begin a ritual he had read about in the books. The ritual simply required him to stick bright paper on all sides of a table, with each side bearing one of his names. He was then supposed to turn the table, read out the spell written in the book, and then remove the name paper. But nothing happened after he did this. He worried about his future, wondering how long he would have to bluff with his useless firepower. Shen Yi became frustrated, feeling so pathetic even after being transported to another world. Shen Yi then focused on the mask, which the priest had spoken of so highly, but which seemed to be of no use. He thought of using it from a different angle, and surprisingly, it worked. The mask was quickly absorbed into the shadows. He rushed toward the mirror and tried to change his appearance. Upon trying, his face changed to that of Byron, so he tried to change his figure and clothes too, and he succeeded, transforming himself into a hero or ranger-like type. Suddenly, he heard the chanting again, and this time, someone was calling him the White Heavenly Fog. It was none other than Byron Anhalt who was chanting and summoning the Lord of Ashes. Byron spoke quickly about many things related to joy and sorrow, and the main request was the resurrection of his daughter. Shen Yi was then summoned. Byron's safety goggles displayed a written question asking about the form he had requested. Byron replied that no one ever thought about the form of the god. Shen Yi appeared as an exact copy of Byron and confirmed that Byron was indeed the one performing the ritual. Byron's daughter was amazed to see Shen Yi. Byron shouted that he understood that the appearance of the Lord of Ashes was merely a projection from their own minds. Shen Yi agreed, saying it was a perfect answer. Byron asked Shen Yi to fulfill his dream and grant his desire, the chance for his daughter to be resurrected. Byron even presented a seed of burning chaos to Shen Yi, but Shen Yi shouted that that it was an abomination. Shen Yi decided to keep up the act until the summoning was over, as Byron was a very straightforward person. So, Shen Yi accepted Byron's sacrifice. He was happy that he didn't have to haul a corpse over to himself this time. Seeing the god's power, Byron realized his true place and asked Shen Yi to grant his wish. Shen Yi praised Byron for the way he treasured his daughter, but apologized, saying he didn't have any way to resurrect her. He then shared what was written in the Origins of the Exterior World Pantheon. He said the white heavenly fog was an exterior god whose true intent was awakening. So, he had to offer Byron some knowledge, but Shen Yi became anxious, wondering what knowledge he should reward Byron with. Shen Yi decided to give him knowledge that the new world didn't have. If Byron failed to comprehend the secret powers needed to resurrect his daughter, Shen Yi could simply say the man's understanding was insufficient. Byron grew tense, wondering why the Lord of Ashes wasn't responding. Shen Yi then began telling him that in the northern darkness there was a huge fish named Kun. Then, the fish changed into a bird, and its size also couldn't be measured. He continued, saying that beyond the restrictions, the purpose of this taboo knowledge wasn't to resurrect, but rather to allow the comprehender to achieve what a mortal truly yearns for. If this knowledge circulated, it would mean a war and the subversion of that war. Byron realized the meaning, and Shen Yi was happy that he had managed to dodge the request. Byron was happy that he had really received such knowledge from the Lord and wondered if it was a sign of the Lord's trust to give a comprehension of this level to him. Shen Yi got back to his shop, full of confidence that he had managed not to look like a novice. Then he looked at the time and realized that the white heavenly fog was really a god of the 23rd hour. So, he wondered if there would be different summons in the future. Shen Yi made a note of the location, the person, and the summoning god's name. He even had photos he had taken while being summoned there. Shen Yi then checked if he had received any new power, but to his sadness, he hadn't. He noted down all the events that happened that day. Suddenly, he remembered the egg he had obtained from that giant lizard. That night, while Shen Yi was sleeping, the egg came out by itself. It transformed into a creature. When the creature saw Shen Yi, it was confused, wondering if this was really the Lord of Ashes. The creature started quivering when it saw Shen Yi up close and ran away from the room. Outside, the creature wondered what was going on. It soon transformed into a cat and then quickly ran outside of the shop. Next, the scene shifts to Nolan's A-rank investigator, George, who was known as the legendary investigator, the bizarre assassin Phoenix. George had received intelligence that a human being had witnessed a child holding a strange cup for a while. Although the shopkeeper's record looked clean, they still needed to investigate the child in person. George understood the importance of the mission. George worried intensely, wondering if the worst-case scenario, the complete annihilation of mankind, could occur if a descendant of an evil god was nearby. He also had a blurred photo of the person they were looking for. George then entered Shen Yi's coffee shop and ordered a latte. Seeing Shen Yi, George initially thought that he was just a normal person. He directly asked Shen Yi about any unusual happenings nearby. Shen Yi replied carefully and managed to calm himself down so that George couldn't figure out anything about his true origin. After George left the shop, Shen Yi felt a chill flow through his body. He tried to cast something, but nothing happened. Still, he was able to feel that he could manipulate his inner flow. His body surprisingly converted into a gaseous form and then returned to normal within 10 seconds. He thought he could use this ability as an escape route during a problematic time. Just then, George came back, and Shen Yi felt a wave of relief, thinking he had managed to stay safe. George told him that he had felt the presence of the god. Deep down, George knew that he had misjudged Shen Yi, but he was soon scared, sensing Shen Yi's aura, which was far stronger than he had first thought. Shen Yi asked if George wanted another cup of coffee. George said yes. Shen Yi left the room, claiming he was running low on ingredients. Inside, he worried intensely about whether the investigator had figured out his secret. He considered surrendering, but he quickly dismissed the idea, thinking about the consequences. Outside, George was also anxious, wondering what Shen Yi was going to get and what Shen Yi truly hoped to achieve. George saw Shen Yi's cell phone and picked it up to check it. Inside, he found many photos of cats, realizing Shen Yi liked cats a lot. Suddenly, he saw a photo in which someone was trying to summon the inaccessible god. He decided to investigate the photo himself to understand what the information meant. When Shen Yi came back with the ingredients, he was surprised to see that George was gone. George had gone directly to the place where Shen Yi had been summoned last time. Upon entering, George saw the egg creature right in front of him. The creature attacked him, but he dodged it successfully. He then took out his blade number 3 to attack the creature. He threw the blade toward the creature, which became confused because nothing seemed to happen. But soon, the knife attached itself to the creature. George controlled the knife, making it penetrate inside. He managed to extract and utilize something from the creature. The creature ran away from there, but now George had locked his knife onto it. He threw the knife again to repeat the extraction. He kept doing the extraction repeatedly, but the numerous times were not enough to damage the creature significantly. George realized that his few fingers and low attack affinity meant that a sorcerer could have done better than him. At that moment, he thought of Byron. He also figured out that the place must have been used to summon the white heavenly fog, so the area must contain some performers. George decided to write a detailed report to petition for a higher position. 2 months later, Shen Yi was practicing his different skills. Right now, he was focusing on the distance over which he could perceive people with his fire ability. He could perceive the sounds and features of passers-by within 300 meters. He had also gained a new power called mystization, but he couldn't manipulate its size. Only his right arm became mystized, while his left was reserved for fire. So, he had 2 different kinds of power, one for releasing energy and one for transforming his body. His training ended and he went to bed. In bed, he wondered why George hadn't visited lately. Over the past 2 months, he had talked a lot with George and even shared a great deal about the other world. He thought this conversation would help him when he was inevitably being hunted down. While he slept, he had a dream, and in it, he surprisingly saw Aina. He checked her from all around and felt like she was real. Thinking it was just a dream, he started playing with her, including squeezing her. But the dream soon began to end, so he wondered what could have triggered the dream. He petted her one last time. The scene shifted to Aina, who was waking up in her own bed. It was revealed that she had used an intangible technique through which she could meet her lord, and it had succeeded. But she felt a bit of heat on her back. Upon looking, she was stunned to see a sign there and thought it was an insignia bestowed by the Lord of Ashes. The next day, Shen Yi was thinking about Aina, since he had now met her 3 times. He was relieved that he had not encountered her in real life. However, he was stunned to see her walk into his shop. He grew tense, realizing he had left his mask in the back room. He asked what she wanted and wondered how she knew his location. He thought the evil cult must possess some kind of prophetic ability. Still, he wasn't scared, since he had already appeared in front of her twice, so he assumed she was simply in shock. But Aina was confused, wondering who he was. They had a strange conversation with each other. He asked her what coffee she wanted to drink. She agreed to drink whatever he gave her. Deep down, she was confused about how the man knew her so well. He was happy, thinking she was in shock, but there was actually a slight misunderstanding on Shen Yi's part. Shen Yi gave her the coffee and asked if she was wondering why he was working at a coffee shop. She shared that she had come because she sensed the aura of the Lord of Ashes. He realized she hadn't recognized him but was only drawn by his aura. He worried about who else had sensed it, so he decided to act as a messenger for the Lord of Ashes. He then gave her a towel to wipe her hair. Suddenly, to his shock, George also walked in, and he had blood on his clothes. Shen Yi was first annoyed, but he quickly realized Aina was still there. He offered George a seat in a separate room. George interpreted this as Shen Yi's awareness, preparing a private space for their discussion. George started talking quickly about himself, but Shen Yi was just relieved that George hadn't seen Aina. George shared that he needed a favor from Shen Yi. Shen Yi told him he would get him a cup of coffee, and then they would talk. Shen Yi even mentioned that the bill needed to be paid. Outside the room, he decided he needed to get rid of Aina quickly, so he walked close to her and asked what her problem was. Her insignia flared up from his closeness. She shared that they were facing a crisis, an assassination threat from the Tranquil Tongue group. She wanted to summon the Lord for help. Shen Yi started blurting out nonsense about believing in God, trusting his powers, and other random things. Hearing this, she became slightly afraid but didn't understand. He said more meaningless things and told her there was no need for her to be in the shop, so she quickly left the place. After she was gone, he took the coffee to the room and asked George to start their discussion. George gave Shen Yi a photo and asked him to find the person in it, as the Anti-Magic Bureau had to eradicate them. Shen Yi was stunned by the photo. He wondered what to do now, so he simply agreed to help George find the girl. George was confused, as Shen Yi immediately knew the person was a girl. George asked how he could possibly pay him. Shen Yi asked for some solid payment. George thought it over and shared that he would only give him a gift. After George left, Shen Yi was anxious, thinking he had become the eye of a swirling vortex of problems. Then, a girl appeared in the next scene, calling Byron Master. Byron asked what Yana wanted. Yana requested a little more compensation for her work, as she had 8 siblings to care for. Byron agreed to it, acknowledging that her willpower was too strong and she was still recovering even after the ritual. Byron then prepared to start the summoning again. This time, Byron used his blood in the circle and chanted for the summoning. Yana held her ears because she did not want to hear the sound. Shen Yi was summoned again and apologized, saying he still didn't know how to resurrect his daughter. Byron also apologized, saying he hadn't been able to grasp whatever the Lord said. Shen Yi wondered if he could somehow transcend the power. So, he asked Byron if he wanted more knowledge. Byron said yes. Shen Yi shared that knowledge was bestowed upon suitable sacrifices. Byron gave him a silver ring, and Shen Yi accepted it, as he was running out of money soon. While Shen Yi was wondering what to do and what to say next, the door suddenly opened and Byron's daughter walked inside. Byron was surprised to see Eve, while Yana was stunned to see Shen Yi's appearance so close to her own. Eve shared that she had surprisingly woken up after feeling a severe chill. Byron was dazzled, convinced the Lord had truly resurrected his daughter. Shen Yi was puzzled about how it had happened, but the important thing was that Byron now fully believed in his godly identity. Byron remembered the Lord's words and assumed the Lord was dissatisfied with the sacrifice he had been given. Eve shared that she felt like she was being watched by someone. Byron thought about this and suddenly considered offering Eve as a sacrifice so he could get new taboo knowledge. When Eve called her father again, he happily hugged her, saying he would never let anyone harm her. After they met passionately, Byron shouted that he would bring a better sacrifice next time. Shen Yi, confused, asked if the threat was really a big deal. Byron shared that he had been approached by the Tranquil Tongue to form an alliance. He added that he never wanted to get involved with the cultists, but he no longer had any other option. After some days, Shen Yi's abilities became more powerful again, but he still didn't know the purpose of the ring. He thought about buying books on occult subjects. He quickly dismissed the idea, wondering what kind of god he was if he needed to read manuals. He decided to approach George to ask about the ring, so he left the shop to go find the investigator. On the way, he noticed it was raining, and he remembered the photo of the summoned place. He knew it must be the Belland region, which was divided into 4 districts. He remembered every detail he had studied about the place and decided to go to the high wall stands located at the edge of each district. Upon reaching one, he was surprised to see another person coming to observe in such bad weather. He noticed she looked like a high school girl and was similar to people from the Shangshuan region. He decided to ignore her and focus on his own work. Shen Yi managed to see a villa and was looking for something, as it was impossible for Byron to have obtained official permission for a summoning. In a few minutes, he saw a bus and Yana came out of it. Seeing her school uniform, he realized she must have come from the Imperial College. He inferred that Byron must have contacts within the college. Shen Yi then focused on the girl next to him, thinking she must have her own secrets. But he quickly told himself not to think about it, as he shared no connection with her. Even the girl was confused because she could feel the aura of the Lord of Ashes coming from him. She was happy that she didn't act impulsively. After Shen Yi left the area, a new person arrived. It was George, who had come to meet his new partner and found that it was the girl. He confirmed if she was Suling. She said yes and confirmed she was a college student. George laughed at Nolan's organization, saying they had gone too far to hire a college student as his partner. They both argued about her age and position. Finally, she shared that she was a B-rank investigator with 10 years of experience. George laughed when he heard this and told her they had serious matters to deal with, as the city was in jeopardy. A cult was planning to summon a god. She asked him to share the details on the way. George was confused and asked where she was going. She shared that he was paying for her dinner today because first, she was the newcomer, and second, he was a higher-ranking investigator with heftier wages. George agreed to it and asked her to go to a coffee shop where he would let her meet someone. On the other side, Shen Yi was bathing and thinking about going to the library. he suddenly heard George's voice and became excited that business had come to him. Su Ling looked around, seeing nobody, but George asked her to wait. Shen Yi came out and greeted them. Sensing Shen Yi's aura, Su Ling became aggressive. She remembered something being burned, zombies around, and a sword penetrating someone. She told herself that she needed to push away her dark thoughts. Even Shen Yi was surprised to see a high school girl hired by the Anti-Magic Bureau. The girl was annoyed to hear this, but George had already told her to only observe Shen Yi's communication. She calmed down and stated she was a college student. George teased her a little and then asked Shen Yi to focus on their work. Shen Yi asked them to order coffee for their discussion. Su Ling looked at the menu and ordered every snack listed in 2 servings. Shen Yi asked about coffee and she asked him to serve the best. He agreed, and while making the drinks, he was happy that he had struck gold. George asked if she wasn't worried about wasting food. She said she would get it packed. Moreover, they had funds allocated for the mission so they could be reimbursed. George sighed a bit and then asked why she was acting like a pauper. When she got the food, she started eating hastily without waiting. George asked if Shen Yi had found any leads. Shen Yi told them to first get on the same page of knowledge. George shared all the problems related to the cult and the exterior world god. But Shen Yi was confident because him being the god meant there was no risk of the cult sacrificing the whole city. He was only afraid of being exposed. Shen Yi then remembered Aina mentioning the tranquil tongue, so he asked George about it. George was stunned that Shen Yi already knew everything and shared that the tranquil tongue was behind the attacks on the Anti-Magic Bureau. George then offered the gift he had mentioned before, but Shen Yi refused, thinking that accepting it meant helping George find Aina. George asked if that meant Shen Yi refused to help. Shen Yi said no and assured him that the girl in the photo wasn't a bad person. Shen Yi also told them about the growing tension between the Tranquil Tongue and the Chaos Ashes Order. George thanked Shen Yi and then asked Su Ling to leave. She then asked Shen Yi to pack the food. He refused because he couldn't pack them, so she stared at the food again and started hastily eating it. The next scene showed Shen Yi reaching the library, but the problem was that he didn't have a student ID card, so he decided to enter through the bathroom. In the process, he was even slapped by a girl for mistakenly entering the girls' one. But with his face-changing ability, he succeeded in getting inside. He started checking the records of the Chaos Order and found that in the past they had caused the annihilation of the world with the help of the Lord of Ashes. However, a corona hit them very hard and their rule got out of hand. Shen Yi knew that he couldn't agree to that level of annihilation. Still, the Chaos Ashes Order was not that strong now. Shen Yi then read some other books where it was explained how God takes sacrifices and how everything depends on their wish. Reading all these things, Shen Yi was anxious about what would happen if the Tranquil Tongue really sacrificed the whole city. A person came there and called Shen Yi by the name Arthur. Shen Yi was engrossed in reading, so the person shouted his name again. Shen Yi realized he had changed his appearance to Arthur, but upon looking up, Shen Yi was stunned to see that it was Byron who was calling him. Shen Yi made up an excuse, claiming he had recovered and had come to the library because someone had asked him to meet them. He soon started acting as if he were getting sick again. Byron asked him to walk in the rain, but suddenly noticed the occult information book in Shen Yi's hands, so he questioned his interest in the topic. Shen Yi quickly told a lie to avoid getting caught. Byron teased Shen Yi, saying he was never serious in his math class. Shen Yi tried to run away from the conversation, but Byron asked him to walk together. Before leaving, Byron went into an activity room. While waiting, Shen Yi figured out that Byron was a math teacher and that Yana must be his student. He concluded that the academy must be unaware of Byron's other identity. Byron came back and asked Arthur to leave with him. On the way, Shen Yi wondered why Byron was dressed so warmly even in the rain. He speculated that perhaps Byron was afraid of the cold after paying the price for some kind of rule in this world. Shen Yi mentioned that he had read the last book and found its contents to be confusing. Byron simply agreed, which made Shen Yi suspicious. Byron then revealed that he had confirmed in the activity room that the real Arthur was still at home. Byron tossed something into the air and explained that it was an ability that targeted people with low power. He had already maneuvered them into a vacant area. Byron furiously questioned Shen Yi about who he really was and snapped his fingers to trigger the trap. He told Shen Yi to speak fast, or his corpse would be the one answering. Seeing the magic circle forming above his head, Shen Yi was terrified. But when he tried to use his mystization ability, His overwhelming aura hit Byron, who then realized that the power was that of the white heavenly fog. Byron concluded that the man's aura was similar to the exterior god and the kin of the Lord of Ashes. In fear, Byron confessed that he had joined the Tranquil Tongue and had thought Shen Yi was an anti-magic bureau investigator. He claimed he was only testing him and wasn't going to cause any harm. At that moment, Shen Yi realized that whenever he used an ability, nearby people could feel his aura. He understood that Su Ling must have felt it when she walked into the shop earlier. Shen Yi declared that he was a messenger of God and asked Byron why he had joined the Tranquil Tongue. Byron had joined because of a promise to receive a disaster-grade relic. With the relic, he planned to ask the Almighty God to keep his eyes away from his daughter. Shen Yi then ordered Byron to betray the Tranquil Tongue and write down all their information in the language of Silence book. Byron tried to ask questions about the task, but a single stare from Shen Yi made him realize his position. So, Byron agreed to the order, but as he left, he felt guilty for becoming a traitor. This went against his pride, but he had a more important thing to consider: his daughter. 2 days later, Shen Yi was waiting for George, who still hadn't shown up. Meanwhile, Aina arrived and told him about his summoning, which was scheduled to happen in 2 days. Just then, a girl customer asked Aina curious questions about being a bestie. Shen Yi solved the customer's problem and asked her to leave. The clock reached 11:50, the summoning time, but half an hour passed and nothing happened. Shen Yi wondered if something had happened to everyone. Actually, at 11:30, when everyone was preparing to summon him, they found that the doctor had been killed. The king learned that people from the Tranquil Tongue had killed the doctor. The king noticed that Aina was still calm. The priest continued talking quickly, but suddenly, one person grabbed his neck as if they were choking. In seconds, that person died. The king tried to calm everyone down, but then another person arrived, saying the outside defenses had been taken out. Everyone panicked, and the king realized they had to evacuate immediately. The wealthy patrons also begged to be taken away, so the king asked his followers to remove the patrons. The king held Aina's hand, asking her to go with him. She asked where. The king shared that they needed to find the messenger. At that moment, Aina noticed that no rain sound was coming, and someone was approaching. Before she could speak, many people burst inside and started annihilating everyone. She fainted after stumbling over a stone. When she woke up, she realized she wasn't dead. This must have been because of the remodeling, but her body was in a lot of pain. Still, she used her willpower to climb out of the debris. She found that the king's hand was still hiding her, but it was cut off from his body. She decided to leave the place and follow the insignia on her back as it was heating up. She was determined to find the messenger. On the other side, Shen Yi was still wondering what had happened, so he kept the door open, thinking Aina might show up, but it was only a cat. Finally, after the clock struck 3 o'clock, he decided to go to sleep, thinking that if the Anti-Magic Bureau was involved, he would soon find out. Aina somehow reached his shop, but collapsed outside. The scene then showed some people standing on a rooftop with swords, waiting for someone to emerge from the shop. The cat stepped out of the shop and saw Aina lying on the ground. The attackers briefly lost focus when they saw the cute cat. But suddenly, the cat and the assailants noticed an ominous aura coming from near the shop. They were terrified, realizing it was the aura of 2 gods or even more. Just then, the cat returned to its monstrous form. Everyone was scared, and they all tried to run away. But Shen Yi's kin easily terminated 2 of the attackers who were running in opposite directions. One of the remaining attackers was even more terrified and thought he had a chance to escape, but the kin easily killed him too by cutting him in 2 parts. Now the last one was hiding, thinking he couldn't possibly get away, but the kin easily found him and killed him instantly. Aina, on the other hand, was feeling extremely hot. The heat caused her to wake up, but she was stunned to see a monster coming toward her. She backed away a little, and when the kin got closer, she immediately put her hand out, shouting at it not to come near. The sign on her back heated up, and an enormous amount of heat came out of her hand. It burned Shen Yi's kin. Aina was surprised that flames came out of her hand. She remembered the words she had heard, that the flames could burn creations. However, the kin was growing back rapidly, so she tried to hold on, hoping she could completely burn the monster down. Yet, in the process, she fainted because she ran out of power. The kin got close to her again and realized that she was a person chosen by the Lord of Ashes. The kin first considered helping her but quickly decided not to, thinking that it was not its job. But Shen Yi woke up by then and came outside, asking about the source of the sound. He saw that it was the cat, but he knew there had to be more. So, he went out to look and found Aina in a critically injured condition. He realized they had been attacked before the summoning, so he took her inside to help her recover. He even asked the cat not to go outside, warning it that there might still be monsters out there. Shen Yi was totally panicked while saving her because he had to remove her clothes to apply ointments and other treatments. But, suddenly, he noticed that the wounds were healing by themselves. The next morning, she woke up in the bed and remembered that the messenger had saved her. She even thought the messenger had healed her wounds. She assumed that the messenger lived disguised as a human being. She saw Shen Yi sitting at a table and walked to him to thank him. But she was stunned by the look on his face. She tensely asked if he was even alive. He told her that his appearance was the result of not sleeping all night. She realized that even the messenger needed to sleep, which meant he was living a normal life. Actually, the night before, he was scared that monsters might attack, so he had stayed awake, guarding the shop and home all night. Then, early in the morning, he went to the library to get the information Byron had left behind. Later, he went to the Anti-Magic Bureau to report the Tranquil Tongue. After a long conversation, they finally believed him after he mentioned George's name. In the present, Shen Yi asked Aina to tell him everything that had happened the night before. She seriously said yes, but he asked her to calm down and not be so serious. Aina shared all the events of the previous night. Hearing it, Shen Yi immediately thought the monster must have been the one Byron had tried to offer him. Shen Yi was completely stressed and looked very anxious. She even asked if he was okay, and he said yes, but deep down, he wasn't. Aina then told Shen Yi about the Order's mission she had learned from the priest. She shared many details about the Order and the needs of the orphanage, but the problem was that to fulfill it, she needed strength and bargaining power. Shen Yi realized that she had been through a lot. Even though she was just a little girl, she had grown by an unimaginable level. Meeting after meeting, he saw growth in her personality. He wondered if she was an actual witch of flesh and blood. Just then, the cat walked in, and Aina was mesmerized by it. She asked the cat's name, and he told her it was Kola. He asked her to hug the cat and was about to leave. But when she went to pet the cat's face suddenly turned a little ferocious and monstrous. She was scared and cried out in fear. He ran back and asked what happened. She tensely shared that the cat had scared her. Shen Yi patted the cat and told it that if it dared to bite her, he would turn it into a delicious kitty cake. She calmed down a little, thinking that if it was the messenger's pet, it wouldn't hurt her. Still, one look from the cat terrified her. She ran and hugged him in fear. He was overwhelmed by her touch and asked her to go and look at the book bar. On the other side, George was complaining about different things to Suling. She asked him not to complain daily. She even asked why George was overstating the case, as there wasn't much information that Coffee Guy had left at the library. George told her that it was information that could take down the Tranquil Tongue. Inside the shop, Suling was holding herself back from ordering much as she had to pay her bill this time. Meanwhile, George was tense because the cat was constantly staring at him with a bad mood. Shen Yi came with the coffee and asked if George was satisfied with the information. George said yes and told him that the other side was too powerful and could even attack the Anti-Magic Bureau. So, he asked Shen Yi to handle things personally. Shen Yi declined because he was afraid of being killed in that chaotic encounter. He thought of using his power to make them drop the idea by asking them not to be greedy, but seeing Shen Yi's appearance, Suling became fierce and was ready to attack. However, George stopped her and apologized to Shen Yi for getting ahead of himself with the request. After they left, Shen Yi calmed down because he had seen killing intent in Suling's eyes. Aina also asked if his customers were gone now. He said yes and asked her to rest at the cafe. Now, he had a strange feeling, thinking that a lot of people were going to die, and he saw it as a wonderfully chaotic experience for him. The fight at the summoning place began as the Anti-Magic Bureau rushed in to eliminate the Tranquil Tongue group. The Tranquil Tongue members were fighting back with surprising ease. Seeing this, George was surprised that even with a surprise attack, the enemies were completely ready with monsters and everything. This heavily suggested there was a mole inside their bureau. George ordered everyone to quickly find the sacrificial location to stop the summoning. George had previously received intelligence that a person named Yare Villard was the leader of the Tranquil Tongue. It was revealed that George, Yar, and Byron were friends in college. On the other side, Su Ling was fighting a monster that looked like an insect. She easily annihilated the creature in a one-on-one fight. She used her download/attack to finish it. Her ribcage was damaged in the fight, but she decided to press on and continue fighting. Just then, she was hit by a bullet from an enemy, but she declared that she had immunity to damage from all types of conventional thermal weapons. They ran toward each other to fight, but she easily dodged and quickly attacked back. Before dying, that man shouted out something strange. He was revealed to be a monster like a centipede. She attacked it with a downward slash, but one attack was not enough, so she continuously attacked again and again. Finally, after killing the monster, she used a painkiller injection for a quick recovery. She informed George about the situation. George teased her for fighting alone, but she pressed on, saying there was no time to waste. George frustratingly agreed to it. George then shared that if the Bureau's S-class expert had been there, the mission would have been easy for them. But the problem now was that he would have to use his second blade, Absolute Death, to deal with Yair. Inside the building, the chanter started chanting and offering a very large sacrifice to the god. Due to the powerful aura, the followers sitting there were having trouble remaining normal. Seeing the sacrifice begin, George declared that they could still withstand the aura. Slowly, a magic circle started forming in the sky. On the other side, Shen Yi was resting peacefully, but the cat realized that someone was summoning the exterior god. Suddenly, to the cat's surprise, Shen Yi vanished out of nowhere. Even when Aina came, she was stunned to see that Shen Yi wasn't there. Elsewhere, the person who was chanting was located by George, so he used his Blade 3 for an attack. The blade penetrated inside and came out on the other side of the chanter, but it wasn't enough to kill him. The chanter was now out of range of George, who was thinking of attacking with his second blade, but suddenly, the area became soundless. Shen Yi saw that this time he was summoned in the form of the silent singer character. He was falling toward the ground and grew worried about the impact. Thankfully, he landed on a magic circle and was now standing steady. The guy told him about the sacrifice he was going to give. Shen Yi was amazed to see the person using telepathic communication. In his book, the word tranquil meant that the mortal living would become emotionless and desireless, essentially becoming nothing at all. Shen Yi wondered what the meaning of living like that would be. Shen Yi accepted the sacrifice because he had read that the obligation would become his once he did that. Afterward, he immediately declined the request. The guy who was chanting was stunned to hear this. Shen Yi was confident because he thought that no one would dare to fight him after sensing his aura. He felt he had the capacity to reject the cultist. Shen Yi announced that because of their harm to Aina and the threat to the city, he refused the request to grant them a tranquil mind. The chanter became frantic, asking why continuously. Suddenly, he collapsed and fell down. Even Shen Yi was surprised to see the collapse and just waited for the time limit to expire so he could get back to his shop. At that moment, he heard the voices of others, but he tried to quickly leave the area. George sensed that the exterior god was gone now and realized that the Tranquil Tongue's wish had not been fulfilled. So, he ordered his team to start making arrests. Hearing this, Su Ling ran ahead first. George told the others to follow her, as he would go for the priest himself. George then looked around and found the priest. But, getting closer, George was surprised to find that the priest wasn't his friend Yair. He wondered if the information provided by the cafe owner had been wrong. Shen Yi returned to the cafe, making the cat surprised. He smiled, telling the cat that he would take good care of it soon. He was very happy, hugging the cat. Just then, Aina came in and told him that she had to leave because people from the Order of Ashes had arrived, asking for her return. Hearing this, he was happy because now he would get his bed back. He tried to be polite, asking her to stay longer, but he quickly regretted it when he saw her reaction. He then asked her what she had decided to do. She shared that she would talk with the priest to understand what the majority wanted. He told her to go then, and she thanked him for his care. She even decided to spread the word about his kindness and everything he had done. The next day, Shen Yi was trying to figure out his new ability obtained from the last summoning. He couldn't find a way to use it. Frustrated, he decided to check the new power he could feel inside. He slammed his hand on the table, realizing it might be the power to immobilize things. As the coffee started to fall, he tried to freeze it in place, and he succeeded. He was happy, but he soon saw that the effect only lasted for a few seconds. Suddenly, the cat attacked him, confusing him. He quickly used his immobilization ability to stop the cat and then moved out of the way. The cat slammed into the window and was slightly hurt. The cat tried to attack again, and he did the same thing. This happened 4 or 5 times, and then he rolled the cat toward the ground. The cat hit its head and was now calm. After that, Shen Yi tried his new power again and again to study it well. He even found 5 or 6 pros and cons of the ability. He got hurt a couple of times during the testing. Just then, a girl came into the shop. He tried to immobilize her, but he quickly stopped, wondering what he was thinking. She asked if something was wrong. After an hour, the girl left the shop, having had a great time. He then worried that she had seen him immobilizing the cat, so he had to do something, or else everyone would find out his secret. For some reason, he looked at his cat. After a while, George and Su Ling came in and said they wanted to celebrate their victory. Shen Yi agreed, but not completely, as Su Ling had brought snacks from outside. George assured Shen Yi that they would only eat the snacks that belonged to the shop. Shen Yi then asked George about the events of the mission. George told him he wanted to talk about Yar Villard this time. They were sitting far apart because Shen Yi preferred it that way. Shen Yi then asked them about coffee. They both ordered, but when Shen Yi asked about food, Su Ling declined, saying she wasn't very hungry. Hearing this, Shen Yi's aura became strange, which made Su Ling tense. She immediately started looking at the menu to place an order. Shen Yi went to prepare their things. Meanwhile, George was getting angry at her, as he had specifically told her not to bring food. Su Ling asked if George had sent her ahead to help her gain credit. He said yes, as it would help her earn the A-rank investigator title. She thanked him for that. George then asked about her feelings while arresting the cultists. She shared that it made her remember her father. George told her not to feel guilty, as her father's deeds had nothing to do with her. Just then, Shen Yi came with the coffee and snacks and asked George to tell him what he wanted to discuss. George explained that in the past, he, Yar, and a sorcerer had formed a team together to fight and capture mystical relics lost throughout the world. Yar was the leader, and they became famous within a few years, but then they parted ways to achieve more. George told him about Yari's power. Shen Yi asked if Yar was really that powerful. George smiled, saying that if Shen Yi was involved, there was no strong or weak. He only said that Yar could be called his teacher. George had learned most of his skills from Yar. Su Ling asked if Yar was truly that strong. George agreed and told her that if she encountered Yar, she should just run. But the problem was that Yar could change his appearance, so they couldn't be sure if it was him or not. George then told him that the person they had captured wasn't Yar. He asked if Shen Yi's information had been wrong. Shen Yi thought that Byron couldn't lie, as it concerned his daughter, so Byron mustn't have known about it either. So Shen Yi suggested that it looked like errors had arisen, and it seemed that the Tranquil Tongue had 2 priests. George and Su Ling then thanked him by bowing in front of him. But Shen Yi asked them not to bow, saying they were friends. After they left the shop, George asked Su Ling to be careful until the traitor was found. He tried to say something more, but she asked him not to worry about her. He told her it was about her father, as he knew her father was once a hero, but had turned to the wrong side to save her mother. Moreover, she was spending too much time with the victims, but the reality was that they were 2 different people, and there was no point in persisting with the atonement and repentance. She became angry at him for acting like an elder. She walked away, saying they were not friends or relatives, only work partners. George realized he had messed up again, but he believed this realization was the best thing for her. The scene then showed George sitting tensely, as the stakes had risen and the Anti-Magic Bureau had paired him with a girl he could sympathize with. Actually, whenever he used his second blade, one of his close people would leave him. He had even had a wife and children, but the connections were severed. Only God could resist this outcome. Still, he remembered Shen Yi and thought that he finally had a friend who would not disappear. Suddenly, he received news that the traitor was none other than Yara Villard, who was amidst their ranks. George responded, "Okay," and asked the person who informed him to tell Yara Villard that he was right in front of him. On the other side, Shen Yi was attacked by a zombie, which made him a little tense. Seeing the zombie's face, the cat felt like vomiting. Suddenly, a monster-like thing came out of the zombie's mouth. The monster attacked Shen Yi, but he atomized it and then used his solidification ability. After that, Shen Yi focused on immobilizing the human zombie. Shen Yi decided to run away by atomizing the zombie. Surprisingly, the zombie showed no hostility because it was terrified terrified by the aura of the exterior god. He now realized that if he could be attacked by the tranquil tongue, then George and Su Ling must also have been attacked. This was true, as George was currently facing Yara himself. George curiously asked how Yar had managed to pass the bureau's exam. Yar told him it was because of a gift from the silent singer god. George then asked why Yar didn't run away and had come to him. Yar told his side of the story, saying he couldn't stand to see George alive. Yar got ready to attack, but George said he wasn't the same as Yar. Saying this, he rushed toward him to attack with his blade, but Yar was powerful and dodged easily. George knew there had to be men waiting outside, so he had to run away quickly. The moment he jumped from the balcony, the men outside attacked him with beams of energy. George used an umbrella to deflect the attacks and then, in an instant, killed those men standing outside. Some men tried to block him from the other side, but he killed them too. However, more men were coming, so he knew he had to escape quickly, as he couldn't waste any more time. Yare appeared out of nowhere in front of George, asking how he planned to escape. Before George could react, Yare shouted, revealing that Byron was the one who had betrayed him. George was confused, wondering why Yare was shouting. Yare planned to deal with Byron later, as it seemed Byron no longer loved his daughter. But George disagreed, saying that Byron had a daughter complex. Yare then teased George and attacked him. George dodged and then asked Ender on the phone to tell Su Ling not to seek revenge on Yare, but to leave the bureau and study hard. Yare saw that George didn't want his partner to follow the same path. George agreed, and so Yare started using his ultimate power of magic circles, revenge and resolution. A few days later, Shen Yi was quietly drinking coffee and thinking about everything that had happened so far. He realized it wasn't a busy life, nor was it boring. It was exactly the life he had aspired to have. Whenever he thought about the times he was summoned, he felt he was linked to a greater world. He still liked his connection with George, Ina, and felt he might also get along with Byron and Sue. Out of nowhere, Su Ling came into the shop and immediately told him that George was dead. Hearing this, Shen Yi was utterly shocked. Su Ling told him everything. Shen Yi realized that George was the only person he could truly call his good friend. Now that the man who had been doing so much for the city was gone, Shen Yi was extremely angry. He furiously asked if it was the Tranquil Tongue who was responsible. She said yes and shared that she would do anything to get revenge on them, no matter how unorthodox. Both of them were filled with intense rage, and Shen Yi decided he would have vengeance. Seeing his powerful aura, Su Ling grew tense. He asked her to tell him everything she knew about the Tranquil Tongue. The scene next showed Shen Yi standing by the seaside, muttering something about life. Actually, an hour ago, when he was talking with Sue, she had told him that Yare must be heading toward Balan's Port Thames. The entire anti-magic bureau had been dispatched to catch Yare, but she didn't want to give him the slightest chance to escape. Shen Yi started using his mystization to project his aura and was sure that Yare wouldn't dare to come to the port. But Yare was already there and was planning to run away and live somewhere else for 2 years. Suddenly, he sensed the silent singer god's aura, so he ran toward the direction the aura was coming from. Upon reaching the spot, he was stunned to see George standing there. Yare angrily asked who he was. Shen Yi changed his appearance to look like Yare and declared that he was a messenger of the silent singer god. Shen Yi told Yare that he would not receive the tranquil mind. Yare grew anxious, asking if what he had done wasn't enough. Shen Yi agreed and then instantly appeared behind him, saying that Yare was on the verge of being caught. Yare was shocked that Shen Yi had appeared behind him so instantly. There, Yare was given a choice of sacrificing his own soul. Shen Yi even provoked him, saying the anti-magic bureau people were coming. This was true, as an A-rank investigator named Ori arrived nearby and felt the exterior god's aura. He wondered if the god had been summoned again. Suddenly, they saw a magic circle forming in the sky and Yare was flying in the air. Yare laughed at them for coming late, saying he was about to get his tranquil mind. Shen Yi also appeared there as the silent singer god. Everyone was stunned to see him, but Shen Yi was happy that everything was going according to plan. He decided to grant Yar true despair. Yar really did offer his own soul as a sacrifice, and so Shen Yi denied the request but accepted the soul as the sacrifice. The soul came out of Yar's body, and he realized that the god had deceived him. Shen Yi vanished from there. Now Ori saw that the god had vanished, so he rushed inside. There, he checked if Yare had received the tranquil mind, but the look on Yare's face said something else entirely. On that same day, when George died, he also asked Suling to go to a man named Byron and give him the language of silence, demand of the fog book, so that Byron could become capable of resurrecting George. Suling grew tense as resurrection was a forbidden act in the Anti-Magic Bureau. George asked if she was willing to do it or not. She thought a lot and finally decided to do whatever would bring George back. So she agreed and they both went to their respective tasks. The scene then showed the burial of George's body, with the Anti-Magic Bureau members showing their condolences. The director was also present with everyone and gave a short speech thanking George. Suling then went to Shen Yi's coffee shop and met with him. He offered her a new flavor of coffee he had just created. She took one sip and then instantly gulped it all down. Shen Yi was stunned, wondering if any of the investigators feared heat. Suling then shared that they had held a meeting where two main points were discussed. First, all the S-rank and A-rank agents were called back to Belland. Second, the Bureau decided not to make an enemy out of Shen Yi and to maintain frequent contact with him. She happily shared that she was taking George's place and was receiving all the funds and reimbursements. Shen Yi realized this was an excuse for the snacks she was planning to eat at his cafe. She embarrassingly agreed to it. Suddenly, she remembered that the director had said that now everyone who wants a god would be coming to Belland. He understood this and then asked about George. She angrily told him that Byron had asked her not to see Shen Yi for some time and that he needed time to do things he could never do before. After that, the scene showed Byron standing with George. George curiously asked Byron the reason for resurrecting him. Byron laughed, saying he had been overcome by a wave of sympathy. Then, he gave George the chance to choose, either make an alliance with him or report him to the Anti-Magic Bureau. George knew he couldn't take Byron alive. George had no option but to stay with Byron for some time and work for him. Meanwhile, Suling was still talking about George with Shen Yi. She asked if Shen Yi had realized that George only put on a serious face in front of him, but Shen Yi asked her to talk about it next time. While going back home, Suling wondered why she always had a strange feeling about Shen Yi. She felt as if all of their destinies and actions revolved around Shen Yi, and they were all his chess pieces. Suddenly, she felt a warmth in her stomach and ran toward an empty area. Upon looking, she saw that it was an insignia. New powers and a new world. Shen Yi continued running his cafe normally, and customers came every day. After 2 months passed, Shen Yi was making notes of everything he had learned. His immobilization duration had increased to 10 seconds. He then held the globe he had obtained from Yar's soul sacrifice. Holding it, he received all of Yar's knowledge and memories, essentially gaining a browser for 100 years of occult information. He was happy to have such a damn useful thing. He could now understand every relic and concept, and he even tried to perform several rituals, but he didn't succeed at all. Suddenly, he heard someone chanting to summon him, so he picked up his mask and smiled before going. He was now summoned to a black and white looking place and only had a knife for self-defense. He tensely wondered what he could do with a knife in an endless monochromatic place. Upon arriving, he was stunned to see that it was the Belland Imperial College. He touched a building that matched his memory and wondered if this was the Achromatic City. He also felt the presence of the person waiting for him in the library. Shen Yi thought it must be the Chaos of Ashes again, but the moment he reached the library, he was stunned to see a beautiful girl in front of him. She introduced herself as the Witch of Knowledge, Rosie. She greeted him passionately, which made him flustered. She told him that a light chaser had asked her for a blade she had made, but she couldn't give it to him because of her pledge. So she offered to take Shen Yi's knife and give it to the chaser. She even offered a reward in exchange. He got excited when he heard about a reward, but she then explained that the reward was her own blade. He wasn't happy to hear this, but he was amazed that this was the first time someone had met him so casually. He even wondered if she was a succubus. She thought he wasn't happy, so she offered to tell him something about the future. He curiously asked, "What future?" She said yes and even offered him an ever-changing weapon. He accepted it and was confused when he received a silver orb. Rosie came to take her item and he immediately handed over the knife to her. She thanked him and he was now sure she was a succubus. Rosie then told him that the light chaser would reach Belland soon to annihilate the false god. He grew tense, wondering if he was the false god and if the true believers were coming after him to dispose of him. She then revealed the future. The false god will ultimately lose, but before that, he will earn everything he can. Then he will cease to exist forever. She said it in purely riddle-like lines, which made Shen Yi wonder about the meaning. While getting back to his shop, he realized that big changes were on their way. At home, he used Yare's globe to get information on the witch. He learned that a long time ago, people had liberated her from a seal. Everyone was admiring her. But when she told them the future, that everyone would be eradicated inevitably, people became angry. They refused to accept what she said and wanted to get rid of her. She disappeared and people lived happily, until one day someone summoned the exterior god, and the god welcomed the dead. That was when the entire nation collapsed. Lastly, all the witches of the present time were descendants of the first witch, Rosie. He thought that perhaps Aina was also a descendant of Rosie. He then decided to look up the silver orb. He found that it was a relic that could grant a user's thoughts at will. But the cost for using it was to lose one body part. Still, he wondered that since he hadn't had to pay anything yet for being a god, it should work again this time. He took the risk and then transformed into whatever he wished. He turned into a different persona, looking like a magical person, and was happy that he didn't have to pay anything. Shen Yi now had a new ability and decided to check it. Half an hour later, he was tired because he hadn't figured out anything about it. Frustrated, he decided to make himself a cup of coffee. But just by a little pull, the doorknob came out. So he just kicked the door a little to open it, and surprisingly, it was thrashed against the wall. He realized that his new ability was super strength and physical variation. But he soon grew tense seeing the state of the door, realizing he now had to pay to repair it. After that, he felt that his defense had also improved a little, so he lightly slashed at his hand with a knife. This was seen by a girl customer who was terrified, wondering if it was self-harm. Her name was Mary, and she wondered if he was a perverted person. But in reality, Shen Yi was in pain after receiving the cut. Just then, he noticed the visitor and offered her a cup of coffee. He asked what she wanted, but she was seeing him as evil in her mind. She asked for a cold coffee, but he suggested she have something warm as her body was drenched. He figured out that no commoner would come this late in the heavy rain, so she must be from the inner world. Shen Yi then offered her a towel so she could dry herself. She saw that she had smeared mud on the floor and was scared, as she had heard myths of the cafe owner tormenting his enemies. On the other hand, Shen Yi was working carefully so he wouldn't break the cup with his power. He then served the coffee. While drinking it, she remembered the information from the inner world and trembled, thinking that the cafe owner acted like a chess master, manipulating everyone. She believed he ruthlessly dominated anyone who asked for a favor or made a soul plunge to their heart's distress. Shen Yi was confused, seeing her trembling. She was scared because she knew he had easily toppled the Tranquil Tongue's influence and that the Bureau had been asked not to provoke him. She wondered exactly what this man could be. Shen Yi asked her reason for coming. She shared that she was the owner of the Precarious agency and was known as a taskmaster. He remembered that Su Ling had told him that taskmasters were a kind of mercenary group that often crossed paths with investigators. Su Ling had even complained about one taskmaster agency. Mary shared that a mysterious association called Absent Eyes had arisen in Belland. They recorded all events but never took part in them. She hadn't seen them as a problem, but for the past 2 days, they had been killing her agents in a massacre. So she wanted revenge and asked for his assistance. She even offered her whole body to him, waiting for him to do whatever he wanted. He confusedly asked what she was doing. She was stunned that he didn't have any interest in her body. Actually, he was tempted but scared of losing his life in a fight, as it could be disastrous. So Shen Yi declined her offer, saying he didn't want to meddle too much. She understood and was about to leave when he asked her to take an umbrella and return it later. Outside, she was confused. He had definitely been hinting for her, but now he had refused to bond with her. She decided to go and fetch whatever she could to win his favor. Mary saw a girl's photo on the umbrella and wondered if Shen Yi liked that type of girl. Inside, Shen Yi was worried about his earnings and decided to use the Ring of Revolving Fate. The ring was supposed to bring good luck in the day and misfortune at night. He had to tap it 3 times to activate the ring. But the next day, Shen Yi was sitting sadly, as the ring hadn't worked and he only had 2 customers. The girl who came daily didn't look well, but a man named Jonas came in and praised Shen Yi for his coffee. Shen Yi was happy that the guy liked his coffee. Jonas gave Shen Yi financial aid, happy with the taste. Shen Yi accepted it without thinking much. Jonas then shared that his boss, Precarious, would attend a meal with Sir Fred next week. Shen Yi was amazed that they were going to meet the philanthropist, Sir Fred. That night, Shen Yi was worry-free, knowing that he would be stable for a while because of Jonas's sponsorship. He then went to sleep, and surprisingly, he got to see Aina in his dream. He was so happy that it was Aina in his dream, but it was only a summoned image of her. He gently touched her cheeks and realized that she had grown a little and looked a lot like that witch. She felt his presence too, but Aina was confused because her own eyes seemed lifeless. He tried to move his hands to see her reaction, and he noticed that her perception was slow. Shen Yi then asked about her problem. Aina explained that she had come to get information about the absent eyes since they were planning to summon an exterior god. However, while they were gathering key items, they went mad and started killing everyone in the inner world. Shen Yi now understood most of the situation. She shouted again that members of their order had also been wiped out, so she needed his knowledge about what to do next, whether to fight or not. Shen Yi thought for a moment about the absent eyes. Then he told her that time would pass and fate would naturally provide her with a clear answer. She agreed and left, and after that, he hoped the dream would finally end. But surprisingly, it wasn't over. He found himself now in a place filled with white heavenly fog. He decided to take a closer look, and when he reached there, he discovered it was Byron. When Shen Yi was summoned, Byron asked him about the Salian dynasty, wondering if he could join the dulled dust if he swore loyalty to Shen Yi. Shen Yi was tired of this, so he decided to simply tell Byron to join, as there was no reason for him to worry. So, Shen Yi told Byron to join if he wished. Afterward, Shen Yi got back to his cafe, and it was 4 in the morning. He couldn't get back to sleep, so he chose to check for information using Yare's orb. He learned that the Salian nobles were once very powerful, and although they were destroyed 1,000 years ago, their family still exists today. About the dulled dust, he found that they were mysterious sorcerers who had been around for 1,000 years with unclear goals. Shen Yi was very happy to have Yare's orb because it was so useful. In the morning, Suling arrived at the cafe, but the cat was spitting at her, so Shen Yi lightly hit the cat, telling it not to hiss at customers. Suling laughed at the cat, and Shen Yi told her not to laugh and asked what the matter was. She explained that an old man from the slums who gave money to the children had been killed. Shen Yi understood that she wanted to find the murderer. She confirmed it, saying that the investigators were busy with the Silent Eyes, so she could only rely on him. Hearing Silent Eyes, he decided to question her about it. He asked her what she thought of the Silent Eyes. She realized that Shen Yi was truly managing everything from behind the scenes, but she had an insignia and couldn't remove it, meaning she had made her own choice. She shared all the information she had about the Silent Eyes, but finally, Shen Yi told her that he already knew all of this, and then he asked her to investigate the Light Chaser and the False God. She was confused to hear those names. After that, it showed Mary outside at night, but she looked very stressed. On the other hand, Shen Yi was thinking about all the things happening at the same time, seeing them form one unavoidable future. He was checking the relics he had and tried a distortion-grade ring, but nothing good happened in his opinion. He wondered why people didn't just give money, jewelry, or checks as sacrifices. Meanwhile, Mary was in danger and was about to inject a foreign blood kiss injection to save her life. But before she could, a monster appeared behind her, which she saw and thought everything was over. She was shocked that only 2 monsters were able to destroy her office. She hoped for a chance to ask the cafe guy for help. At the same moment, the relic in her pocket began to shine. Just when she thought it was the end, the monster was suddenly killed by someone. It was none other than Shen Yi. Shen Yi was thrilled by his new power and happy about his badass action. Mary was stunned by Shen Yi's power, but soon she felt the aura of an exterior god and realized that he was some kind of God's messenger. Shen Yi wondered if he went too far by bullying someone weak. But seeing her trembling, he realized that no one could stay calm around his aura except that witch. Shen Yi greeted her and she gave him a relic in return, the Dream Spectator, and asked him to help her get revenge for her dead colleagues. She even told him that she could take him to the Absent Eye's hideout. He thought about the enemy's power level and if she could handle it or not, and while he was thinking, she injected her potion to survive. So Shen Yi agreed and asked her to go. On the way, she was sadly remembering how her happy moments were destroyed by the monsters. Seeing her, Shen Yi asked if something was wrong. She replied no, no and thought that she first needed to cling tightly to him. For that, she wondered whether to promise him loyalty or simply offer a few $1,000,000. But soon, she decided not to joke about it. They reached the lair, and she explained that it was underwater, and they did everything there until they went mad and became monsters. Shen Yi understood the situation, and she praised him for that. He thanked her for the compliment but asked her not to take things lightly. She realized that she didn't need to flatter him. He then asked her to back up a bit and decided to start with a test. For that, he used his flame power with a huge aura around him. The brief burst of fire was just a way to take out a small flame to go and look for a switch to drain the water. He quickly found the switch, but Mary was completely terrified by the explosion. He apologized because he had never seen such an extreme reaction, but she still said okay while shaking. After that, they headed towards the entrance of the lair. Before entering, she asked him to wait because she had to get something. He blushed when he saw her retrieving an item from her bra. She pulled out a card of the almighty primordial flame. The primordial flame was actually the only true god of the second continent. Mary asked him to give the card some light to show the way. He complimented her on the idea, and they moved forward. On the way, monsters appeared, but he easily cut them down with his stick. She was impressed by his power, and she even used something. He asked her what that was, feeling confused. She explained that she was cleaning up the dead bodies he was creating. He understood that she would do anything to gain his favor. Many monsters kept appearing, and they were easy for him. But to her, he was slashing like a wild hero. After every monster was cleared, she was confused, wondering if it was over and if Shen Yi already knew all the secret information. Actually, they were in the Achromatic City, which was a world of conscious ceasefire, so he used that to his advantage. Moving forward, they found a glass wall halfway through. She was amazed to see such an aquarium created by some kind of technique. Shen Yi thought about it and said that it could not be the work of a beginner. She curiously asked if that meant there were several people from the inner world inside. He said yes, since she had guessed correctly. Shen Yi felt proud of showing off his knowledge with the help of Yare's orb. After that, they kept moving forward and suddenly entered a room where many enemies were visible. He told her to step back a little, and the monsters came out and glared at her. She tensely asked why. He explained that she needed to turn off her light skill, which was drawing the monsters in. When the monsters rushed to attack, he cleared them easily with his stick, but it was taking too much time. With everyone slowly fading, he changed his weapon into a whip. Then, he started slicing those monsters in large numbers with the whip. In just a few seconds, all the monsters were gone, but the bodies in front were very gross. She even threw up seeing it, and he also felt sick, but he couldn't vomit. He asked her to clean up after throwing up. While she was cleaning with her art, he felt jealous watching her. He wanted her to work as his staff, but he feared that she would go crazy spending too much time with him because of his experiments. While cleaning, she found a book and pointed out that it was behind the table. She held it up for him to see clearly. In it, it was written how an anonymous person, Mr. White, gave them knowledge. He even created a massive underground palace with just a snap of his fingers, and also gave them powers that were far beyond anything normal. So, the whole story written was about Mr. White and his blessings to them, and how the absent eyes were created because of him. Shen Yi realized that Mr. White was the mastermind behind everything. He even wondered what Mr. White hoped to achieve. He then complimented her for reading so well. She was delighted by the praise and then cursed the people of the absent eyes for being so crazy. Shen Yi asked her to look around again and check if anything useful was there. After checking everywhere, she found nothing at all, as if everything had already been cleared out. Shen Yi then asked her to give him more help in the future. She became frantically excited and said yes. He realized that she was too innocent, as she got excited over a small compliment. At that time, she was thinking about many things, like whether to kneel before him, but it felt a little shameful. Still, it didn't matter at all when she was with him. She was confused like this. Shen Yi then asked her to investigate the death of an old man who sold sweets in the nearby slums. She agreed to do it. Just then, they heard a strange sound, and the next moment, they saw the rivers bursting in. He realized that it was a trap, but for him, it was nothing. However, for her sake, he decided to use the cross. He threw it towards her, and it struck into her chest. The water rushed in a grand way, and seeing that, she fainted. After some time, it showed that they were both safe. Shen Yi was drying his clothes with atomization. The cross had a high price, so he decided to take it back, but he was surprised to see where it was resting on her. Just as he was about to take it, she woke up. She thought he was going to do something, but he only took the cross. She asked if it wasn't too early for him to wake her up. He tensely asked if she had gone insane. After that, they both went their separate ways. Suddenly, he felt a small shock and realized that someone was summoning him. Seeing the fog, Shen Yi realized that it was Byron. He even noticed that the assistant was again passed out and felt that she was very loyal to Byron. In reality, she was there because she was greedy for money. Byron offered spiritual water this time. Shen Yi knew that the spiritual water had amazing magical effects, so he accepted the sacrifice. He even thought that maybe it didn't work with mere human mortals, but it was effective with him since he was a god. Shen Yi then wondered about his appearance changing, asking if it was a good thing to do. Soon, he decided that it was better to be safe than sorry. Shen Yi started reciting the uniformity of all things as a piece of knowledge for Byron. Byron knew that it was a top alchemy knowledge, and so he shared that he had already joined the dulled dust, and after he finished the trial of killing the light chaser, greater sacrifices would be offered. Shen Yi was stunned hearing that and remembered the witch Rosie's words, so he asked Byron to head to the point where he could meet his messenger. Byron understood that he needed to go to Beyland Imperial College. Before leaving, he saw Yama had fainted, but he left her there, promising that she would get the money. Shen Yi got back to the riverside and he was in a hurry to get information about the light chaser. But he became anxious, realizing that he was very far away from the Imperial College. He first thought to fly there by using atomization, but the possible side effects scared him away from doing it. He remembered seeing a bicycle on the way. He used his power to create a duplicate key. On the other side, Byron used some arts and created a door, through which it showed his daughter was busy cooking. Eve happily hugged him and said that she had learned new dishes. She asked him to try some, but he looked afraid of it. He still agreed to eat some of her food. Meanwhile, Shen Yi was rushing on the bicycle as fast as he could to reach the college. On one side, Byron showed passionate care, while on the other, Shen Yi showed a frantic approach to the college. After that, Byron took Eve home and asked her to sleep because he had work to do. She agreed to it, and Byron silently wished that she would not worry, as he would make sure she lived a better life. Next, it showed Shen Yi finally reached the Imperial College and met Byron in the disguise of Arthur. While Shen Yi was wondering why Byron waited so long, Byron was stunned that the messenger arrived as soon as he reached the college. Byron was afraid that the messenger could track them easily. Shen Yi asked Byron to share information about the light chaser. Byron explained that the light chaser was a saint of the Corona Church who had disaster-grade strength and a disaster-grade relic. Recently, that saint came to Beyland for some reason. Shen Yi shared that the saint came to destroy the false god. Byron didn't know about the false god, but if the saint was involved, then the false god must be strong. Shen Yi asked Byron to follow the saint and get information from him. Then, he was to put the information in the book. Byron agreed and thought that leaking past information had led to Yari's death. And he knew the messenger made the order bend to his will, and an A-rank investigator listened to him. Lastly, Shen Yi was anxious to return the bike as quickly as he could. Next, it showed that Shen Yi's legs were shaking. He felt humiliated for a god like him, but he was happy that none of his acquaintances were around. Otherwise, it would be an embarrassment for him. Shen Yi then decided he shouldn't relax because there was another person like him in Beyland who was untouchable, which he had learned from Yara's orb. At that moment, the cat was playing with the orb and mistakenly hit him. The cat even showed off in front of him juggling the orb, so he angrily asked what if he got the cat sterilized. Hearing that, the cat was shocked. After a few days, it was the 5th of September, the Exorcist Day. People stayed inside, afraid of running into monsters. They would then have family meals and pray together. Shen Yi was reading all that online and felt relieved that there wouldn't be any customers that night. Suddenly, he heard a sound from outside, and when he came out, he saw a girl with a horn on her head. He asked if she was okay. He even offered her to come inside and rest. She became stressed by his offer. He assured her he was not a bad person, wondering if he looked monstrous to her. She shouted, asking him not to get involved because she was a monster. He was surprised that what he read online turned out to be true. Still, he showed his firepower and smiled, saying that he could help her. She was surprised to see him like that and asked if he could truly help her. Seeing that she was not too impressed by him, he felt that she could be his perfect employee. He thought it was good luck from the ring, and so he pulled her inside the shop to talk more. First, he wiped her face because it was wet, and then came back with a cup of coffee to warm her up. She thanked him for his help. Shen Yi now asked her what her problem was. She explained that she was Tina, an Imperial College freshman. Last week, she found herself mutating, and her body became more animalistic. He was amazed to see a girl with beast ears. She got flustered by his intense look. He apologized and asked her to keep telling her story. One day, she came across an occult book and got more through friends. They all tried the magic arts but failed and slowly lost interest. Suddenly, weeks ago, she found herself mutating after bathing. He told her that it was normal and asked if anything else happened. She described the different types of mutations she had over time and even heard some unintelligible whispering. He curiously asked if it was the horn and the ears. She said yes, as she grew a different body part daily and now felt like a monster. So she started hiding it from everyone. But one day, Mr. White told her not to give in to the pressure in her mind. Still, she was unable to control it. Shen Yi asked about Mr. White and then thought about it a lot. He realized that Mr. White's next target for making a monster was Tina, so he told her that Mr. White was a dangerous person. She tensely asked what he meant. He said yes, as Mr. White had committed evil acts before. So he asked her about Mr. White's location. But her response stunned Shen Yi. She explained that she met Mr. White in her dream, and she had been meeting him daily for the past 2 weeks. Shen Yi pondered over this, as Mary had said the same thing, that Mr. White spied in dreams with the help of the dream spectator formula. Soon, he anxiously wondered if she was going to become a fish-headed monster, so he decided to find Mr. White himself in the dream world. Next, it showed the Imperial College where students were studying. Aina was also there, as she had become more knowledgeable than her peers. She had even mastered intangible arts with the help of high priests, so she knew that there was no turning back for her now, and the current state was the most she could achieve for her companions at the orphanage. A person came and asked Aina to go because the high priest was waiting for her. Aina went to meet the high priest, and there she saw the orphanage chairman and motioned for him to leave. The chairman thanked Aina. The priest also welcomed her and said that her request had been approved. Now, the orphanage children didn't need to join the order, they could simply contribute financially. Aina thanked him for the change. To that, the priest asked her to thank the Almighty only. The priest then said that next week he would take her to meet someone at a surface world operation, Congressman's 70th birthday party. Aina remembered that he was the hook-nosed old man from the day of the attack. She asked if it was important to go in person, as it could be dangerous for her. He told her not to worry, as she would even meet her peers there. The priest even showed a small tube containing a diluted substance that would let them share the gift's power with everyone. Aina asked if the priest remembered what she had asked for. He responded yes and said that he had investigated the absent eyes, and it was revealed that the Foundation was involved as well. She was shocked because the Ruins Foundation was a powerful group that stood behind everyone yet remained an independent force. She decided to report it to the messenger. The priest knew that Aina would do it, as it would be a sin if he went directly. The priest then talked nervously about Precarious, as the noble had cancelled the meeting with him. So he had too much work now. The next morning, Tina woke up in Shen Yi's bed and found that there was no sign of her being attacked. But deep down, she was upset for having strange thoughts about the Lord Sorcerer. Last night, in the room, she had thanked him for saving her. At that time, Shen Yi was thinking of using the cross if it was a curse, so he was waiting for her to mutate again. She got flustered by his stare. He asked her to lie on the bed and stay put, as he would step in if she had any problem. She misunderstood and blushed, asking what he meant by lie on the bed. He realized that Tina was a bit shy. Suddenly, her horns disappeared. She started having trouble breathing and said she wasn't feeling well. Shen Yi quickly put the cross on her, but saw that it had no effect. He became calm that it was not a curse, and so he told her that she didn't need to worry about becoming a monster because the danger was gone. she was happy. After some time, Shen Yi was wondering why Yare's orb didn't have information about Tina's problem, but then she came in and said that she didn't want to go home because her parents would find out and send her to the Corona Church. He knew that the shadow mask could help her, but she couldn't use it forever, so he gave her some money to go and stay in an inn. She again misunderstood it as a hint for a date with him. In the present, Shen Yi was wondering about Mr. White's appearance as Tina had described him, a person who looked like an angel sent from the realm of God. He knew it would be hard to deal with such a person, but first, he needed to figure out Tina's housing problem, as he couldn't pay her rent for long. While Shen Yi was very worried, Mary came running in, shouting that she had found a clue. He praised her for it. Then he asked her to have coffee while talking, and she had to pay for the coffee. She agreed to his request. He brewed the coffee for her, and she drank it all quickly. She dramatically complimented that it was the best coffee in the world. He then asked her to share whatever she had found. She reported that someone from the Bruta family had performed intangible art, which led to the old man's death. He became serious hearing it and said, okay. At that, she thought that he already knew and that it was just a test for her. So, she decided to give a more serious report. She shared that the head of the family was always in the hospital, but recently, he was seen golfing with friends, and it must be the result of that art. He was impressed by her detailed report, so he asked how she got the information. She told him about her connections and all that. He realized that she was once an important person, so he decided to reward her. She was happy hearing it. He thought a lot about what to give her that would glorify him, so he gave her a summoning magic ritual relic. She was dazzled seeing it and tried it right away. After seeing what it could do, she was amazed, as she hadn't seen intangible arts of that level in her whole life. She thanked him for the reward while acting humble. He asked her not to act humble and told her to gather some ingredients for the Dream Spectator potion. She agreed to his request, and deep down, she knew that it would cost thousands, but it was worth it for her. Whenever there was a problem or question, she thought that Shen Yi had left it on purpose for her to find, so she decided to research the sources of the material. It now showed Su Ling, who had collected information about the Light Chaser, and she was going to give it to Shen Yi only because he told her about George's return. Kola was playing around, but suddenly Su Ling came in and he started hissing at her. Shen Yi welcomed her, but yelled at Kola for harassing the guests again. Kola was scared by Shen Yi's look. She only asked for snacks. At this, he was surprised. She explained that the bureau refused to pay for her snacks if she ate too much. While giving her coffee, he told her that he already got the information she wanted. He was happy that Mary came before Su, otherwise it would not have been good. Su Ling was stunned by his fast investigation. Actually, before coming to the cafe, she had researched all about him and she found very dangerous information, that he was someone like the messenger, but also like a god. He was friendly to humans, but everyone needed to satisfy his requests. She was worried because she didn't know why he forced an insignia on her. Shen Yi then revealed that it was the Bruta family who used intangible arts, causing the old man's death. She thanked him and was about to tell him about the Light Chaser, but he told her first, making her surprised. Still, she continued, saying that the saint's name was Flo Augustine, and he was investigating the Absent Eyes mass mutation event. Shen Yi was happy to get the key information about the Light Chaser. She also said that Augustine stopped the investigation after 2 days. He thought that showing integrity was a good sign. Su Ling also said that members of the Foundation had also arrived and were being investigated. Shen Yi knew that Foundation members called themselves protectors of historical ruins. Shen Yi then left for his room and was happy because it was possible that Mr. White was the false god. Mr. White had arranged 2 events. The first was with the Absent Eyes and the second was with Tina. Shen Yi started taking it seriously because now he was truly curious and wanted to meet that Mr. White. After a few days, at nighttime, Shen Yi told Kola that he was leaving for a while. He was now much less afraid of the people in this new world. 3 days earlier, Mary came back with the potion he had asked her to get. While there, he asked her to look after Tina. Mary agreed right away. Shen Yi understood that she was a very good assistant. He decided to use Su Ling's help, since Tina could change at any moment. In the present, Shen Yi and Su Ling were walking toward Tina's room. She asked him something, but he simply told her to keep walking. This made her slightly annoyed. She still asked which room Tina was staying in and continued talking. But he changed into fog, entered the room, and opened the door from the inside. Suling was angry at him for acting like that. Suling looked at Tina and asked if she was a demi-human. Shen Yi denied it, saying that Tina hadn't been like that from the start. It was the work of the false god. He said he only wanted Tina to return to her original state. Suling was worried because the situation was turning into a major conflict involving very powerful individuals. Shen Yi then used the exterior god's aura to calm the wild thoughts in Tina's mind. Soon, he realized that he had forgotten Suling was with him and she was getting angry. So, he took out the potions and told her to hurry up. While giving her the potion, he moved closer to her and whispered something in her ear. She understood him perfectly, and so they began the ritual. Next, it showed that someone evil was coming in the fog. The person had a single eye covering their whole face. He rushed into the inn and went straight toward Tina's room. There, he saw everyone and aggressively charged toward them with his weapon. But Shen Yi was ready and easily blocked the attack with his stick. He had already figured out that Mr. White must have left someone to guard her. He had even told Suling about this when he was whispering, but the guard looked very disgusting. The guard attacked again and Shen Yi blocked it. He attacked back and cut down the guard, but it started regenerating, so Shen Yi held it down and cut it again. But the guard recovered once more. Shen Yi knew that outsiders couldn't be disturbed, so he kept fighting to see how long the guard could come back. After a long fight, Shen Yi was finally able to defeat the guard. But suddenly, he saw white crystal pellets scattered on the ground. He became anxious and hurried to check on Tina and Sue. Seeing them hurt, he was worried, wondering if it was a trap set by Mr. White. He rushed to enter Tina's dream. When he opened his eyes after entering the dream, he saw a strange place with no buildings at all. He had a feeling that Suling was ahead, so he moved forward to find her. Next, it showed Suling, who had just woken up in the dream and found that her clothes were still on and she was in the room. But she didn't see Tina or Shen Yi. She soon realized that she was in the first layer of the dream, as dreams are divided into 3 layers: reality layer, fantasy layer, and primitive layer. She jumped from the building to find the false god, as Shen Yi had ordered her to confirm Mr. White's identity or kill him. But to find Mr. White, she first decided to find Tina. They had the advantage of holding hands while sleeping, so they had formed a connection in the dream. For that, she tore a part of her dress and threw it into the air to create a crane that would lead her to Tina. In a few minutes, she reached a house and wondered if it was the original home. Suling realized that Tina wasn't in this layer, so she jumped to the second layer. She found that it was the fantasy layer, and soon a monster appeared in front of her. The monster attacked her, and the surroundings were greatly damaged, but she moved out of the way very well. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed into a fairy tale castle. She saw a horse there, but it was too creepy for her. Still, she ran behind the crane to find Tina. Suling reached a river and found that Tina's dream was a childish one. She realized that Tina was in the primitive layer, so she also went toward it. Upon arriving there, she found herself in a chaotic red-hot place. There she saw Tina sitting on the ground, clearly scared. Before she could reach Tina, Mr. White welcomed her and asked her not to be surprised. Suling realized that he was similar to Shen Yi. Mr. White raised his hand slightly, at which she pulled out her sword and rushed to attack. But before she could reach him, he used his power to shatter her arm with just a snap of his fingers, and then inflicted unbearable pain on her. This part closes out the intense dream sequence and focuses on Shen Yi's new power and recruiting the girls. Suling still tried to use her downward attack, but Mr. White told her not to, as his powers were all powerful in the dream. She dropped her sword and asked if she would wake up after being killed in the dream. He agreed, but said that she wouldn't wake up easily and could be killed permanently. But he didn't want to kill her. He wanted to see how long she could keep resisting. Saying this, he started giving her more unbearable pain, over and over. She was in total pain from it, so he asked her to surrender, but she refused. Mr. White was impressed and then decided to increase the heat. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed into a white and peaceful place. He tried to turn it back, but he couldn't. Suling's pain also lessened, and she wondered if it was Shen Yi. Both saw Shen Yi at the same time. He had come running there after hearing Suling's horrifying screams. Seeing her condition, Shen Yi became a little angry. Mr. White became nervous after sensing the exterior god's powerful aura. He decided not to fight the god, and so he woke everyone up from the dream. After the dream ended, they woke up by default. Tina was surprised to see Shen Yi and another girl lying on her bed. She even got jealous of Suling's figure. Soon, she misunderstood that the 3 of them had slept together. She angrily hit Shen Yi for it and asked how he could do it. He confusingly asked what was wrong. She asked how he could bring her and another girl together to do strange things. He shouted no and explained to her that they had come to perform an exorcism on her. He even asked her to check herself. Tina checked herself and realized that she really had changed back to normal. She thanked him. Then Shen Yi looked at Su Ling and wondered if his interruption caused her injuries to vanish. Su Ling woke up, which made Shen Yi happy, but soon he realized that she was in a disheartened state. Tina confusingly asked what was wrong with Su. Shen Yi explained that Su Ling was attacked by that monster in her dream. He then told Tina that Su Ling needed time to recover, and so they would stay in her room for the night. Now, while waiting for Su Ling to recover, he suddenly started hearing chanting or some kind of singing. So, he thought it was a summon, but he didn't feel any shock and realized it wasn't a summon. The voices were going off within his soul. He heard it for a few seconds and later said that it was gone. Tina got scared and asked if there was an unseen monster nearby. He said no, asking her not to panic. Deep down, he wondered what to do now as he couldn't leave them alone, and the voice just now had an Erme accent. From it, he was certain that summoning wasn't just limited to Balan City. Erme had fought a war with Nolan in the past after killing some natives and eventually had to accept the nation's independence. He wondered what that was just now, whether it was a prayer similar to the dream world or if a new power was summoned. Moreover, in the dream, he even saw a red insignia mark on Su. He thought of checking by lifting her clothing, but soon decided against it, thinking that Tina would think he was a jerk, and he couldn't even make Su Ling understand it. So, he tried to wake her up by talking about a 50% discount on food. She moved a little, and he realized that he needed more stimulation to get her up. He tried saying more strange things about discounts and everything. To this, Tina asked that Su Ling's condition didn't look good, so was she like a puppet or his familiar? He laughed at the idea and said if Su Ling were his puppet, he only needed to shout, "Arise," for her. Surprisingly, Su Ling actually stood up from that command. Shen Yi was stunned, wondering when he got that power. Soon, he thought that it could be because of his aura. So, he fired up his flame a little. From this, Su Ling started trembling and soon came back to her senses. She told him that he rescued her. Suddenly, Su Ling remembered the image of the silent singer in her memory and shivered on the bed, wondering what kind of man Shen Yi was. Moreover, her power was nothing compared to the false gods, and Shen Yi easily called out a god who defeated the false god. He asked if she was fine. She said yes and asked if she could leave. She rushed toward her blade to pick it up and go away. He then told her that he would give her a reward. Hearing that, she was stunned. After that, it showed that he was teaching Su Ling some summoning ritual magic. She stared at him, wondering how he could casually teach her this when even the tranquil tongue didn't leak it. Tina also heard everything but wasn't able to understand it. She was dazzled, realizing that it was the real magic, so she asked him to teach her mystical powers too. He was happy that Tina took his bait, so he said yes, but she needed to pay a price for it. She, in a playful way, asked what price. He shouted, asking her not to overthink things, as they were only master and apprentice. She just needed to help him with work, sort of like work study. She confusedly asked if that was all. She didn't need to sign any contract. He asked Tina not to read kids' books so much and to go back home, as it was already too late. Su Ling was intrigued by him because, despite being such a mysterious and terrifying person, he looked so ordinary. Shen Yi asked Su Ling for a cup of coffee, but she declined, saying it was too late and she was heading back. He wondered what happened to her. After some days, Shen Yi was calmly reading the paper. Tina came in, saying she washed the dishes. He asked her to call him manager, but deep down, he thought that it would look funny to customers. Moreover, it was hard to find such an employee, so it didn't matter what she called him. Just then, Aina came into the shop and asked if anyone was there. Aina asked if Tina was the new assistant. Tina said yes, but her first look went straight to Mary's chest. Aina asked if she could wait inside until her friends arrived. Tina agreed. As Aina entered, Shen Yi asked how she came alone. She laughed, saying that the Anti-Magic Bureau wouldn't always be ready to arrest and punish people. He asked what was happening. Aina explained that Sir John was running in the recent election and he had also joined the order not long ago. Shen Yi was stunned, hearing that even a political candidate was a follower of Chaos. He was also furious that his bootlickers were running an office while he was stuck in a small coffee shop. She also told him about the false god, saying that he was an escapee from the Ruins Foundation. Moreover, they were sacrificing things again to make up for the last failed attempt. He asked her to continue, saying that the Lord would have mercy on them. While Aina was leaving, he asked her to keep their business a secret from Tina. In the evening, when Tina's shift was over, he told her that he would start teaching her the next day. She agreed and left. After that, Shen Yi was thinking about what gift to give them now. He soon remembered that the book said the Lord gave his followers his own food. He first thought of bread or coffee, but he couldn't keep giving those every time. Suddenly, he saw the cat playing with an apple and decided to give the apple to them. The summoning began and he recognized Aina's voice, which meant her status in the order had gone up. The high priest didn't want the Lord to get angry, so he had to give 2 sacrifices this time to make up for the last attempt. So, he offered the heirloom fruit and the omnipresent traveler's opus. When the Lord came, the priest was excited because they were going to get a tremendous response. Shen Yi was summoned and Aina was happy to see him. Aina praised the god greatly and then said that they were offering the fruit of the Black Sea Abyss and the omnipresent traveler's opus. Shen Yi accepted the sacrifice and then took out his bag, putting the gifts inside. Seeing this, Aina was happy that the Lord of Ashes had forgiven them. Shen Yi took an apple from his pocket and placed it in front of them, saying that it was his blessing to them. The priest was stunned to see what they got, as it was the Blazing Heart. For them, the Blazing Heart was in existence on par with disaster-grade relics. But, to activate it, they needed a powerful person. To this, Aina suggested the messenger. The priest agreed, acting like he didn't know anything, but Aina knew that the priest was just waiting for her to suggest it. Elsewhere, Tina was sleeping peacefully, but it showed her hand briefly turning monstrous for a second. In the morning, he was checking his new relics. The fruit contained an incredible but random power. A lucky person could reach the highest levels of strength, while an unlucky one could be doomed. So it depended on luck and granted some supernatural ability. But he decided to put it aside and first look at the omnipresent traveler's opus. He used Yare's orb to get information. After a few minutes, he found that it had 3 effects. The first was record, where the user could capture the location within 100 meters. The maximum capacity was 10 scenes, which could be changed. The user could zoom in and out on objects and could even see other places. He checked and everything was true, so he decided to use the second effect of it, which was travel. If he silently said travel, he could instantly move or shift to the recorded scene in the book itself. He was happy to find such a valuable treasure for himself. Moreover, every 3 uses of record and 1 use of travel would cost the user something, which could be body parts or loved ones. It was too scary, but his being a god meant he didn't need to pay. So he used travel, and in less than a second, he was transported. The book then needed a full day to recharge. Shen Yi finally had a life-saving tool. Outside the cafe, a new guy was standing and thinking about the cafe owner. Actually, he thought that the cafe owner was an enemy of the Corona Church, so he wanted the boss to suffer greatly for it. On the other hand, Shen Yi was waiting for Mary to come so he could ask her to help him sell goods or occult knowledge, which he could use to earn money. Just then, the cafe door opened and a dazzling light came in, sparkling in Shen Yi's eyes. Shen Yi wondered who it was that impacted him with their aura. The guy thought of testing Shen Yi because he heard Shen Yi was very strong, but before that, Tina welcomed him, making him surprised. Shen Yi asked what coffee he would order, but the guy kept staring at Shen Yi's clothes, making Shen Yi confused. The guy was actually staring at the ever-fading cross as it made people hear continuous babbling, which drove them mad. Shen Yi asked for coffee again, but the guy refused. Shen Yi offered tea, but he refused again and shouted that the primordial flames stated that they shouldn't want frivolous things. So he just asked for water. Hearing this, Shen Yi realized that he could be a priest of the Corona Church, and for a person to show that much confidence, it must be that person. So Shen Yi called him the Light Chaser, Flo Augustine. Augustine smiled that the cafe owner was expecting him, but he was even more surprised to hear that the owner even knew about the false god, which even the anti-bureau didn't know. Shen Yi smiled, asking Augustine not to be suspicious, as he knew too many boundless secrets. Shen Yi then used a little flame to show his power and asked why Augustine came to the cafe. Augustine was stunned by the aura and remembered the book's words that the chess player could be a messenger, so he thought Shen Yi was more than just a relative of the Lord of Ashes, but he misjudged Shen Yi badly. Augustine tensely remembered the church's teaching, but his heart said something else. So he shouted that he came to cooperate. Shen Yi smiled and asked Augustine to talk then. Augustine talked about the false god, a person who escaped from the ruins foundation with the single purpose of achieving delusions of godhood. The false god had failed so far, but Augustine had to find and destroy him. Hearing all this, Shen Yi felt a great sense of relief, knowing that the false god Augustine was chasing wasn't him. Shen Yi wondered what he would do if the false god summoned him. He could be a bad god or play a good god, since a god was still a god. Augustine asked Shen Yi for help finding the false god. Shen Yi first asked what he would receive for the work. Augustine offered the sunlight case, a disaster-grade relic, which only cost a mere feeling of thirst to use. To activate it, he just needed to place ordinary water and paper inside, which would give him a sunlight charm that worked against evil beings. While Shen Yi was thinking, Augustine ran away from there in fear. Shen Yi simply asked Augustine to order coffee next time. On the way, Augustine saw the cat and thought it was cute, but soon the cat's hissing made him unable to move. Next, it showed Mary talking secretly with her friend Mia. Mia asked her to quit everything, as they had enough money to live comfortably for their whole lives. Mary responded while eating, so Mia asked her to finish her food first. After she finished eating, Mary explained that she was already the messenger's subordinate, so if she quit, she didn't know what punishment she would face. Moreover, with the mastermind still free, she could only rely on the Lord's messenger, and she felt that everyone else felt the same way. Mia finally agreed with Mary. Then Mary stood up and told Mia she was going to the cafe. Mia asked her to have steak in the evening after she returned. Mary agreed to the plan. Mary then reached the cafe and greeted Shen Yi, but she was surprised to see Tina. Shen Yi told Mary that Tina was his new apprentice. Mary felt envy toward Tina. Later, he told Mary that Tina needed money, so he wanted her to sell the spiritual water. But he warned her to be careful, as it could make an average person go crazy. She decided to first see what the spiritual water was. Shen Yi even offered her 10% of the earnings for her hard work. After Mary left the cafe, he asked Tina that they should close the cafe as he had things to do. Tina curiously asked if he was meeting a vampire or even a powerful tame dragon. Shen Yi was anxious, wondering what to say now. Next, it showed Shen Yi went to Thames Port and rented a hotel room. He used the Traveler's Opus and recorded the Anti-Magic Bureau area. After the recording was complete, he traveled back to the cafe instantly, but he was stunned to hear a voice saying that he finally came. Shen Yi first thought of turning into fog, but soon decided to immobilize the enemy first. To his surprise, he heard the person calling him boss and realized that it was George's voice. Seeing Shen Yi acting strange, George was confused. Shen Yi told George not to come at night like that, as there was no coffee for him. George laughed, saying that now he couldn't freely enter the cafe even at night because of Shen Yi's good reputation. Then Shen Yi suddenly reappeared. Shen Yi realized that even George didn't sense him, which meant the omnipresent traveler was truly useful. After that, they sat calmly and started talking. George explained that lately he was eliminating some low-life criminals whom he couldn't touch as an investigator. He thanked Shen Yi for allowing him to act on his own. Moreover, he got time to spend pursuing his old connections. Shen Yi didn't know about the cost of using George's blade, so he showed himself to be happy for George. Deep down, George wondered that Shen Yi resurrected him, and he didn't know Shen Yi's purpose. Moreover, his body was a magic puppet body, but it had all human senses, which showed the quality of Byron's technology. Since Su Ling wasn't there, George thought of smoking, but Shen Yi refused to allow smoking in the cafe. George then said that he had some information that he wanted Shen Yi to pass to Su. Shen Yi saw George was being very direct. George even acted very friendly. This was making Shen Yi frustrated, so he asked George to speak quickly. George shared that fanatics were showing up more often, and they were praising the Lord of Miracles. And since they were just average people, the investigators were ignoring them for now. Shen Yi thought that it was good because if the religious wishes of normal people were banned, it would end humanity. George continued sharing that those fanatics were praising the Lord of Miracles very intensely with no clear reason. Shen Yi confirmed if it took a complete turn in attitude. George agreed, so Shen Yi understood that it was again like the absent eyes people, and so it was the work of the false god. George confusingly asked who the false god was. Shen Yi then shared everything about the false god. George realized that Shen Yi could gather information personally too. But George wanted the reason Shen Yi was telling him all of this. Shen Yi smiled, responding that they were both on the same side, and he knew that George wouldn't do anything careless that would cause chaos around Bayland. George agreed, and after that, he stood up to leave. While leaving, Shen Yi told him to get some coffee next time. George then asked about Su Ling's well-being. Shen Yi responded that it didn't seem like those people had given up on her judgment. George again asked Shen Yi to look after her for him. Next morning, while Shen Yi was talking to himself, Su Ling suddenly came in. At the same time, Aina also arrived. Both Aina and Su Ling were secretly admiring each other's beauty. Shen Yi was anxious because now a cult's godchild and an A-rank investigator were standing together. If Su Ling met Aina, she would find out her identity. Shen Yi wondered that Su Ling still didn't know that the Anti-Magic Bureau found out that she played a part in George's resurrection. Moreover, the higher-ups in the Bureau had mind-probing methods, so threatening Su Ling with exposure wouldn't work. And if Aina's identity was exposed, the Anti-Magic Bureau would lock her up for her whole life. He was just hoping Aina wouldn't say a word. But Aina went to greet him, and seeing that, he tensely used his immobilization power to stop her. As of now, the two worlds are about to collide. Aina, the devoted servant of the Lord of Ashes, Su Ling, the sharp-eyed investigator from the Anti-Magic Bureau, both standing in the same cafe and both unaware of the storm about to break. How will Shen Yi manage them together without exposing either side? What do you think will happen next? Tell me your theories in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chapters of the Lord of Ashes. Hit that bell icon, because the next part is going to burn brighter than ever.